Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who understand that there's more to entrepreneurship than finding the latest flash-in-the-pan strategies, who understand that in order to build your empire, you need a solid foundation. I wholeheartedly believe that entrepreneurship is the biggest self-development journey you can be on, and it's my mission to help you make that journey easier. In this show, I bring together the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist and mindset coach behind this show, and you're listening to the Wired for Success podcast. Hey everyone! Today I want to share a few lessons from my very first marathon that I ran last weekend and that I almost didn't finish. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's start at the beginning. Running a marathon is something that had been on my mind for a while, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure why I felt it was something that I wanted to experience, but it somehow felt like there was a lesson for me to be learned from doing it. So I was curious about what it would feel like to venture so far out of my comfort zone. So just to give you a little bit of background, I do see myself as a runner, but what that looks like to me is that I just usually run, say, 5 to maybe 15 kilometers about 3 to 5 times a week on average, and I just run for fun. So I've only ever done 2 half marathons before, one in 2008 and the other one in 2019. So while I would call myself a runner, I would certainly not call myself anything like a long distance runner. I would also say that when it comes to running, I don't feel like I need to participate in any big events or competitions to prove myself. I just step outside our front door and I start running. Big events like the Berlin Marathon or the Boston Marathon, they're really not very appealing to me at all. I'd rather run alone because running is my me time. I enjoy running in nature. Running relaxes me, it keeps me fit and healthy. I usually have my best ideas when I go for a run. I like to listen to audiobooks or podcasts when I go for a run. So running really checks a lot of boxes for me. And while I'm completely happy with my usual running routine, I still felt that there was something about running a marathon that somehow intrigued me. And maybe it was listening to people like ultra runners Travis and Mark Macy that I had talked to on my podcast this year. And if you missed the episode, you can go back and listen to it. I think it was called Ultra Mindset with Travis and Mark Macy. Anyway, the way they talked about running those long distances made it sound really special, almost like a deep spiritual experience when you have to face your demons and overcome your fears and weaknesses. And I think that's kind of what made it special in my mind and why I felt drawn to at least try it once. That said, there never seemed to be a good time. Too much to do, not enough time to train for it, bad weather, sick kids, not feeling ready, being afraid of the pain. I mean, there was always a good reason, or at least an excuse for why I didn't do it. So last Saturday, I simply decided that Sunday would be the day I made it happen. We were actually on a nice 15K walk with the kids. The weather was absolutely amazing, and it was predicted to be just as beautiful on Sunday, and nobody was sick, and we didn't have any special plans for Sunday. So that's when I decided that I was going to run that marathon the next day. Obviously, I hadn't trained for the marathon at all. I hadn't even run that much the weeks before because I had a rather nasty cold. But I figured I felt good again and it would be okay. So as soon as the sun came out on Sunday morning, I set out to run that marathon. It was cold and frosty, but there was not a single cloud on the perfectly blue sky. It was absolutely beautiful. So I started running, everything went well, but as expected, my hips started to hurt a little bit around kilometer 12, maybe 13. But instead of getting increasingly worse, it actually got better again at around kilometer 18. So I think that's when the endorphins really kicked in and I experienced this runner's high, and it made me feel as if I was walking on clouds. I felt really great. but I also started to feel really hungry and a little bit thirsty. I didn't bring anything to eat or drink, but I had planned to run 2 rounds anyway and have a quick stop at home in the middle of the run just to have a little bit of a drink and a snack. So I did that after about kilometer 22, and then I went out again to run the second half of the marathon. I felt pretty good until about kilometer 25, when the magic of the endorphins seemed to wear off and reality kicked back in. And the more my physical strength subsided, the more I had to use the power of my mind to just keep going. Things got really hard around kilometer, I would say probably 35, when I felt super hungry again and I started to be very, very lightheaded. I couldn't think straight anymore. All I could think about was food, something to drink, and a nice hot bath. Those were the things that just pulled me forward. And I have to say that those last maybe 10 kilometers were really quite hard. My legs hurt so much. I was hungry. I was super tired. And I was very, very relieved when I finally made it back home. Then my husband welcomed me and asked something along the lines of, "So, congratulations, did you really manage to run those 42.2 kilometers?" And I said, "Yes, I did it." And I wanted to show him on my watch. And then I looked at my watch and it said only 41.4 kilometers, not 42.2. I hadn't actually run the full marathon. I'm still not quite sure how that happened, but as I said, I wasn't really able to think straight anymore at that point. So I still needed to get out there again and run a few hundred meters. And oh my gosh, that sucked so much. I really didn't want to put my shoes on again. But hey, you can't run 41.4 kilometers and then just give up before you've actually run the full marathon, right? So after having a quick bite to eat and something to drink, I went out there again and finished that marathon, this time for real. Now that I've had a couple of days just to let that experience sink in, here are a few lessons that I learned along the way. So number one is, some things can't be taught, they need to be experienced. And marathons are one of those things. You can read all the books about marathons, you can talk to experts, you can prepare all you want, and still you have no clue what it will feel like until you do it. So if it's calling you, just go and do it. Lesson number two, I think that pain as well as success, by the way, are non-linear. And until we understand that, we often give up too soon because we intuitively use linear regression to predict future pain. So what does that mean? Well, when we take the marathon, again, as an example, you might feel absolutely miserable around, say, kilometer 20. And then you automatically predict that you'll feel about twice as bad around kilometer 40. And that thought is so terrifying that you'd rather give up than go on. And the thing is, if pain is non-linear, you won't feel twice as bad around kilometer 40. Actually, you might not be in pain at all as different physiological mechanisms kick in. So just think about how often you might give up on something in your life just because it feels uncomfortable in the present moment and you fear it might get so much worse. How many opportunities are you missing? And the last lesson I want to share today is, if you are a very strategic person like I am, someone who loves to plan and who always prepares for all eventualities, ask yourself if you've taken this to the extreme and you have maybe started to over-prepare and procrastinate. When you think about a continuum from very strategic and planning on the one side to completely impulsive and spontaneous on the other side, where do you fall on that continuum? And if you're like me and you tend to over-prepare and overcomplicate things, maybe it's a good thing to incorporate a little more spontaneity in your life in order to stay flexible. Do something with that planning every detail and see what you can learn from that experience. It might just open up a whole new world for you. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show. It would mean the world to me because you'd help me reach more entrepreneurs like yourself who would love this show. If you'd like to learn more about creating a widely successful business without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sanity, make sure to stick around and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And why don't you help me spread the word and share this show with your friends? I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure your friends will too. Want to continue this conversation, build real relationships, and join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs? Come join my free Facebook community for visionary entrepreneurs. I would love to see you there. In the meantime, if you haven't done so already, grab my free brain priming audio file for entrepreneurs and start priming your brain for success in less than 5 minutes each morning. Curious? You can learn more about how this works and download the audio file at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions. Until next time, bye!
This is not a commercial for The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe, the award-winning podcast now entering its 10th year and available wherever podcasts are listened to. No, this is a commercial for Mike Rowe's foundation, which has just set aside $10 million to help train the next generation of skilled workers. That money is available right now at microworks.org. It's waiting for anyone who wants to learn a skill that doesn't require a 4-year degree. Electricians, plumbers, linemen, welders, shipbuilders, HVAC techs. America is desperate for men and women with skills they don't teach in universities. And the MicroWorks Foundation is committed to helping train America's workforce for hundreds of thousands of AI-proof 6-figure jobs just waiting to be filled. Apply today for a work ethic scholarship at microworks.org or support our efforts with a donation of any size. We're closing America's skills gap one job at a time, and we could use your help at microworks.org, MIKEROWE works.org.